At this time, we're joined by Rutgers' Steve Owens, Illinois' Dan Hartleb, Penn State's Rob Cooper, and Indiana's Jeff Mercer. As a reminder, transcripts will not be provided for post-game press conferences. With that, we will now take questions for the coaches. Please raise your hand to ask a question. Once called on, please state your name, outlet, and identify who your question is for. With that being said, any questions?
Evan Bland, Omaha World Herald. First of all, I love hearing about the travel stories. I think those are the most interesting things we'll hear.
You ought to join us sometime.
Yeah.
It seemed like scoring was way up across the league this year. I'm just curious if you noticed that in your games, what maybe the reasons behind that would be, and if you expect that to carry over into this week for anyone who's concerned.
Well, I from my standpoint, I think 90% of the games we played this year, the wind was howling out at every ballpark. I think it was a major factor. Thought the weather, affected so many things this year. So, just part of what we all dealt with. I think across the board, you saw that in a lot of games. So, I think weather was a major portion of that.
I think it also has something to do with the fact that, most of our kids just played conference games last year. So there's a lot of young guys that didn't get opportunities to pitch in the midweek. And so there's a lot of kids on, on our team that we're going through the learning experience and the growing pains. Even though they might have been in our program for a second year, it was a freshman year for them. We had 35 out of 39 guys on our roster. Well, only 5 guys on our roster had actually experienced a real 12-month experience in college. So classes in person, fall practice, go home for break, come back, classes in person, early practice, and then a regular season. So a lot of learning on the fly, even though they might have been older guys.
I think that had an effect on our RPIs as a league. You look back before COVID, where we'd got, we had more people with better RPIs, and I think the fact that we didn't have 2 years of development basically was a factor with us this year as a group.
From an offensive standpoint, if you look at just taking a year to potentially 2 years off of live at bats and development, right? Talk about the midweek games. You look at last year, you build a pitching staff for 5 games a week, and then you play 3 games, and so you stack those guys up. If you're let's say you're an offensive guy, and so you're facing everyone's best arms through the weekend, right? You play no midweek games. There's no one that you ever get that's the 8th, 9th, 10th guy on the staff. There's none of that. You're facing the best all the time. There's never a time you get to build yourself up after having no season the year before and no summer ball the year before. So much of that, all it's an avalanche, all piled on at one time. And the pitching in the league was really good last year. Look at the draft. There was a lot of pitching last year that was really good. And so this year you have summer ball, a full year. You've got midweeks again. You get some confidence back. You kind of get it rolling a little bit. A lot of the league had a lot of the arms were drafted last year. So you put those things together, and the wind blowing out was I would have loved to have hit. I would have hit 440 this year if I could still play. So
I'm calling BS on that.
I don't know. You damn near hit 440 a senior year. So.
No, but the wind blowing out was a big deal too.
I think the hitters got a lot better last year, facing elite arms every inning of every weekend, and more of the better players that got drafted were pitchers. So some of those older, really good pitchers that gave everybody some great depth weren't there this year. Quite honestly, it just seems pretty simple. Like the depth of the hitters are better than the depth of the pitchers, like across the board. Because it's hard to keep teams from scoring this year, and I think it seems like more of the older, more established players are more position players a little bit this year than it was more pitching last year.
Yeah, I think the other thing that'll be interesting this week, we've all played in that wind. This ballpark seems to hold the ball in a little bit, so I think you'll see teams need to manufacture runs a little bit. The home run may not play as much as it did during the regular season.
For any of you, just how good does it feel to be back in the stadium, to be, have the Big Ten tournament back finally after 3 years?
But it's, it's what you play for, right? You play to win championships, you have the regular season, but to get to the tournament format, it's fun for the players. As coaches, again, it's what you try to develop your team to get to, is to some championship style play. This is a fun time of year, and so I know from our standpoint, we're excited to be here, and not only the city of Omaha, but everyone in the Big Ten, and then Nebraska, hosting. It's just a great event. So I think probably speak for all of us that we're all excited to be back in this format and in this venue.
Carl James, IUBase.com, for Coach Mercer. Coach Vaughn specifically talked about the experience that his team has. So you've got a team with 4 all Big Ten freshman players. What it's going to be like, your relatively young team going up against his very experienced team?
Well, I think throughout the course of the year, guys have an opportunity to learn and to grow, and that's why you hope that you have a chance to play young guys. So by the end of the year, they're not as inexperienced. I think for us to go out and have an opportunity to compete with a great team like Maryland, the rest of the teams here, those young guys are going to have to go out and act like they've been there before. Maybe they haven't, but they have a chance to compete against great teams. They've traveled and played against some of the best venues and some of the best programs in the country. So they're gonna have to go out and be able to carry themselves as such. And you do that long enough, you find yourself, like I always talk about, you find yourself in the 7th inning of a 2-run game, and you find a way to try to win it late. So they have a great team, he's a great coach, and they are very experienced. But over the course of the year, those young guys have had a chance to learn and to grow, and now it's their opportunity to go compete.
Austin Renner, Indiana Sports Network. Coach Mercer, I wonder, it wasn't a great weekend in Iowa, win-loss wise, but do you feel like getting to the tournament is an opportunity for the team to kind of flush that away and hit the reset button?
Yeah, no, it's a big accomplishment, especially you look at where we were at 5 or 6 weeks ago and not being necessarily in that position, that contention. So you're really proud of the kids for the way that they recovered and responded and improved throughout the course of the year. And maybe the last weekend didn't go as well as you would like it to go, but it's a precursor for what this weekend is going to be, where you're going to play against great teams in a short turnaround, and there's weather involved. There's all kinds of different mitigating circumstances. So yes, I am very proud of them, the way they recovered and responded, the way we were able to go out and work our way into this situation. And as they've said before, now you have an opportunity where everything's a slate clean, and for everybody, you go out and you compete for one weekend. I played for Coach Cooper at Wright State, and coming from mid-major baseball and spending so long at that level, you can do whatever you want to do throughout the course of the year, but it comes down to one weekend at the end of the season, and that's how it was every day for years and years. So it's a kind of a normal feeling to go into the end of the season and know, like, hey, you've got one weekend, and for everybody, they're trying to vie for one spot in that tournament setting. And so that is a comfortable place to be, as comfortable as you can be in it, but spending so much time in it, it's more normalized, I would say.
Matt Levine with the Maryland Baseball Network. Coach Mercer, you guys haven't seen Maryland yet this year. You saw them in the last regular season series last year. Just watching from a distance, what would you say they've done well? I mean, a lot has gone well, but watching from a distance, what is?
I think the harder question would be to find what they haven't done well, right? They've done everything really well. Pitched it, really hit, experienced. They've done a really good job of building a great program where they've recruited at a really high level and allowed those guys to grow up and play at a young age and develop, and they have great continuity. Obviously have great coaching, great development. They're very well-rounded and very balanced. And so anytime that you go and play a team like that, you can't, you have to go into it and play to obviously your strengths, but try to mitigate anything that you would do that would be disqualifying, right? You have to take care of the ball, can't give away free bases, you have to put the ball in play, right? Anything that's disqualifying, because a team like that's going to take advantage of it, and they'll really make you pay for it. And that's what they'll do too, and they'll run away from you if you give them opportunities to do that. So I know it sounds very, very basic, but you just can't do anything disqualifying because they'll put you away for it. So like I said, you have to go and compete and find a way to be in a ball game late and try to win at the end.
Kind of building off that for the other coaches who have played Maryland this year, what was the biggest challenge about about that? And then what does it do for the perception of the league when you have a team from the Big Ten in the national seeding conversation, in the race to host a super, potentially, things like that?
I mean, first of all, I agree with what Jeff said. I mean, they're really good. The weekend we played them, they could really hit. They had the right guys on the mound that competed and good starting pitching, and they played really good defense and played with a lot of energy. That's tough to beat. Don't care where you're playing. As far as how is it for the conference? I mean, this guy's had two teams being super regionals and host and things like that. And, Michigan in 2019. So it's just, to me, it just is another example of the level of play in the Big Ten. That it's good. It's a good baseball conference. So that's how I look at it.
I think the thing stands out to me from Maryland. We beat them on Friday night and beat them handily. And we turned around and played a doubleheader, and we made 4 or 5 mistakes that Saturday in a 2-game set, basically. Every time we made a mistake, they made us pay for it. I mean, it was unbelievable, what they did. If we'd make an error, not make a play, whatever it was, they make you pay for it. And so I think that's a sign of a good team. It's kind of like blood in the water. They find a way to, you just have to play, very good baseball against them. Can't make a lot of mistakes.
I know we've been talking a lot about Maryland, but Rutgers has had a pretty remarkable season this year as well. Can you talk a little bit about what your team has done and what it means to be kind of in a national picture at this point?
I think we've been pretty consistent the whole year, from the beginning of the season all the way, through the end. There's been, there's always ups and downs, but we haven't been on really the extreme of that. We've played pretty even keeled. Our pitching has been, was pretty good at the beginning. We gave away, less free passes. We're not elite there, but we've really had to manage things to make it work and match up. And the players kind of established roles and then did a good job of being consistent with those roles. And our offense is good. I've had a lot of good offenses. This might be the best one I've ever had, from top to bottom. We've made some changes. Like, we have guys hitting 1 that have hit 8th, and we've changed a lot. But there's been very few weekends where 3 guys weren't, pretty average for what they do, which is good. 3 guys were awesome, and 3 guys were a little bit down, and we still have an opportunity to score each inning. So it's the first team I've had really that, we can hit a home run in the leadoff spot, we can hit a home run in the 9th spot. We hit a lot of extra base hits. The on-base percentage is good. We don't, the strikeouts to walk ratio to hit by pitch is very good. The extra base hits is good. And different guys have stepped up. We might have 2 guys have an elite weekend, but the other guys were consistent, So I've been very pleased with that. And then I think maybe the most important part of our team has been that we've led the conference in fielding percentage from start to finish, and that was a point of emphasis. I wish that our pitchers would get some more ground balls, because we can catch them, but we can catch the fly balls too, and that's been, last year was my first year really playing in the league as a coach, and I watched Nebraska field the baseball in every key spot for every game. They made a big play, and they didn't make mistakes defensively at all. They had guys play in different spots, had a little depth to do different things. If there was a cutoff situation, the ball was fielded cleanly, got in quickly, and an accurate throw and tag. There was a lot of really, really high-level plays that take practice and commitment and a care level. And we tried to instill, the fact that defense was very important to our team this year. And I think we did defense before we did anything else in practice all year long. And we continue to. We will go practice defense before we practice offense. and obviously we're an offensive team. I like offense, but defense has been a big key to our team this year, and I was happy that our team bought into the work that it takes to be good at that.
Coach Owens, just how special is it to play in the stadium knowing that in a couple weeks' time you'd like to be right back here playing for much more than a Big Ten title?
Yeah, I mean, this is just exciting. You know, I'm excited for our players who have never experienced this, and I don't know if we've been in the league for 7 or 8 years. This is my second year of playing, Big Ten baseball games, and last year was hard. Again, I thought that the players got better last year because of how hard it was. I mean, you're facing, Indiana in a 4-game series, and some dude rolls out throwing 95 miles an hour in the 7th inning of a Sunday 4-game pot. It's not fair, So you got to get better, and I think our players are excited. I think they got a little bit caught up in some of the stuff at the end, where we've just played all year and we didn't worry about anything. We just played, and then I think they got caught up a little bit in some of that stuff at the end, and we didn't play quite as well, the last couple weekends. But we also played teams that were really good and also played at a very high level. It's great. It's exciting for our players in our program and our school, and hopefully, they perform well and get comfy and can hang around for a while.
A lot of conversation about big changes to college athletics with removing scholarship limits and coaching limits. I guess I'm just curious, your perspective, how drastic of a change would that be if those limits were removed for college baseball, and what could that mean for Big Ten baseball moving forward?
It's way over my bandwidth. I got enough issues worrying about the guys in blue and white. Here's the only thing I'll say about college athletics is that, I was a walk-on. I was not a very good player, but everything that I have in my life is because of the experiences I had as a student athlete, and that's the truth. The coaches I met, the people I met. So as long as we don't ever take that out of it, and that stays the core, then it's a great thing. If it gets anything away from that, then we're talking about professional athletics, and those are great too. But I don't think any of us got into this to make a lot of money or to to do anything other than try to make an impact. So for me, it's as long as that can always be at the core, and I don't know what that looks like.
Everything's different right now at the NCAA, so just try to not worry about it, tell you the truth, and see what happens. As a non-revenue sport, stuff kind of trickles down to you anyway, so everyone else figures it out before it kind of gets down to you. So you just roll with what you have, and the players don't seem to be too concerned about any of that stuff right now, at least on my team.
Yeah, I agree. I think from my standpoint, that the two things that I hope we don't get away from are academics. We still want, guys to graduate. I think that's really important. And I don't think the transfer portal helps that. So I've got an issue with that. And then the amateurism portion of it, don't want to get to a point where it's all about money, because this is such a great experience for young people. And, some of the best times of your life, and to be involved with a team where they're, where it's still about the college setting. I think it's important from a growth standpoint, and I just hope that we don't lose that.
Final question.
Just curious for any of you guys, how you try and manage pitching this week with quick turnarounds and a quick turnaround from last weekend as well, kind of how you use the all hands on deck, kind of how you're going to manage your pitching.
Stay in the winner's bracket.
We've kind of just done that by committee all year, to be honest with you. So for us, it's going to be just whatever we got to try to do to win that first game and figure out who's going to go the next game after. And I heard Steve say, he had like kind of matching up guys, and that's kind of how we've looked at our staff. Was we have some guys that have some ability, but because of COVID situation stuff, didn't have a ton of experience. So we just tried to really get them in matchups that favored them in short bursts, let their stuff play up, and so we're not going to change a whole lot.
As far as we're concerned, I thought we were in a good enough position to make the tournament. I know some things had to go our way, so we did work to try to get ourselves lined up to put ourselves in the best position with the teams that we assumed that we would play. So we are in a good position from our pitching standpoint of pitch counts were right to be able to get guys back on time, back on schedule, and to be able to match up and then have the guys have the ability to take a run at it. If somebody gets hot and goes, and it's not like somebody, we were aware of the situation, the surroundings that would allow us to make it, and then what would allow those guys to, if somebody gets hot and can roll, can go from there. But at the same time, have essentially the entire staff be hot game one, which they are. So it was a little bit dicey, kind of rolling the dice a little bit and making sure we were lined up, but it, I guess all's well that ends well at this point until the tournament starts, right?
I think many years, that I've been involved with the tournament, the years you're most successful, somebody steps up that you don't expect to step up, right? Somebody that's maybe struggled throughout the year, or at that point in the season they're struggling, and all of a sudden they come out and they, whether it's 1-2 innings or they give you 5 or 6, somebody steps up and makes an impact. I think that's important for each and every team, and the team or two that gets that guy that does that little extra that you don't expect, it seems to propel them through the tournament a little bit.
I think we haven't gotten great length from our starting pitchers all year. So, like, you start the season and you hope that you get that, and then we realized we weren't going to get that. So then we were starting the same guys. We lost a weekend starter early, and he's back now, but he's not really, ready yet. But we'll just continue to do it like we've been doing it. I don't think we should, try to change something or that's been successful. It hasn't been as successful as it was, for most of the season, the last couple weekends, but I'm not gonna panic and change it. We're just gonna do what we do, because if we can get into the middle of the game with our starters, then our relievers have done some good stuff for us. When we don't get into the middle of the game with our starters, that's when the cupboards get bare, or you roll the dice and you lose on a gamble, and then it puts you a little bit short, going forward for the next game or the game after that. So, we'll just try to figure out a way to get toward the end with more runs than the other team and give it to the right guy.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Very much, Chris.